Tanner, welcome to the podcast. We are in St. Vitus, practically in the middle of the dance floor here. Yeah. I was just mentioning right before we started how cozy this feels. It doesn't take much people to make this feel very homey. Tell me about St. Vitus. Let's just start here where we're currently standing and what you do with St. Vitus, maybe even the Valkyrie side of things. I'm excited to dive in and ask a bunch of questions, but let's start with where we're at right now.
Yeah. So St. Vitus. St. Vitus originally was supposed to be a cocktail bar that also had house music, techno, just kind of anything electronic. And then once we got going, we kind of realized that, like, okay, people are really leaning into the music side of things. So let's match that energy and keep going. But we still have an excellent bar program that we're really excited about, mostly all on draft, so that we can get a little more complexity out of our drinks without sacrificing so much time in creating all those. We do a lot of work on the back end, so that it's kind of just like plug and play. Just pull it and send it out.
We're already diving in here. I love that. Cocktails on Tap is, I feel like you guys might have been some of the first in town. I don't know the stats exactly of having cocktails on tap. I find that very interesting. Obviously, at Welltown, having a normal product like a beer on tap. Mm-hmm. Is it primarily, you said it's a speed thing, but it's also a quality thing.
Right.
Let's dive into that. So bartender to bartender, you're going to have, my only guesstimation here is you're going to have some nuances of change.
Right. Yeah. You try to do your best to like dial in your recipes, and everybody pours exactly the same, but there's margin of error there. Like, humans make errors. It happens, especially when the lights are really low, the sound's really loud. There's a lot of people yelling at you.
Sure.
You can get off a little smidgen here and there. And, experiencing that just at Valkyrie, we had quite a bit of waste. You grab the wrong bottle or you pour the wrong amount, you got to dump it out, start over. When you've got it on draft, it's just you pour to the amount that you need and you're good to go. You don't really have to worry about messing it up too much. But in that, it allows us to put, 10 ingredients in one cocktail, and it still comes out in like 30 seconds.
Sure.
So you can really play with that and get a lot of complexity out of your drinks that you normally wouldn't want to do in a volume bar.
So are you the mixologist? Like, are you one of the professionals that come up with these things?
Yeah, so partially.
Okay.
It's mostly the owner, Aaron. He and I work together making the menu. A lot of his grand ideas, and then I had to take those and figure out how it would work on a draft system, because not everything translates. Like, you're not going to put an egg white in a keg and expect that to work. Like, it's just going to be gross. So yeah, I mean, that was his project, was like figure out what drinks we wanted to serve, and then my job was to figure out how we're going to serve those and make it work.
Cool. So between you and Aaron, you guys tackle the mixology program at both locations, or I would assume maybe both.
Yeah.
But where's your passion behind Valkyrie, behind Vitus? Like, what do you really enjoy? We all have things, all jobs of certain aspects. It's just like, okay, here we go. But what things do you really dive in? Maybe more in your current position, maybe less. I don't know. What do you really like to do?
Yeah. I feel like it kind of ebbs and flows. Just depends on the nature of like what's needing to be done, that sort of thing. But I really like working with people. I like training. I like getting people on the same page and excited about what we're trying to do. I love making a good drink. Mm-hmm. Coming up with that new recipe, and like, you've got to workshop it a few times to dial it in just right. But when you finally get that spark, it feels amazing.
Would you say, I threw out the term mixology, but what do you professionally, is there a professional term that the creative side of like coming up with these recipes, not just the guy behind the bar, but
right,
like the engineer behind it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's technically the right term.
Okay.
It's had like negative connotations in the past, where it's like, I'm not a bartender, I'm a mixologist.
Right.
Which is like not really something I subscribe to. But if you look at like historically what that word meant, it was basically the creator of the recipe.
Sure.
And then the bartenders were the ones executing those recipes.
Got it.
So, I mean, I still consider myself a bartender. I still pull shifts, and I'll make you vodka soda or whatever you want. I'm not gonna turn my nose up at you. I don't care.
Right.
But yeah,
That's cool. So let's dive into that a little bit more, because I find that very interesting. People do it with food.
Mhm.
People do it with alcohol. There's lots of different creative veins, channels that people channel. I don't know, some of that energy. What, maybe it was early on, maybe it was later in life. What got you kind of in that place of like, I really enjoy coming up with these crazy recipes, putting ingredients together that maybe shouldn't necessarily be together, but it just works? How did that all start?
yeah, man. It's kind of funny. So back in like high school, I was kind of like the host of my friend group.
Okay.
Like everybody would come to my house to hang out and like play video games and whatever. And then as we got older and we started, starting to drink and stuff, it was like, PBRs and
Sure.
cheap whiskey and whatever. But then I started reading stuff online, and like I got a couple of books, and then it's like all of a sudden I'm making these like bartender recipes, like flaming Dr. Peppers and like random just like trashy crap that's I
Sure.
probably wouldn't drink today, but it's like whatever. I was a kid basically. But that kind of like spurred it, where I was like, oh man, this is actually like kind of fun. I enjoy doing this. And I was already in the service industry, and so I just kind of like progressed through that. And I knew long before I was 21, like, bartender, that's what I want to do.
Really?
That's going to be the thing. And so like shortly after my 21st birthday, I applied at Valkyrie, got an interview, landed the job, and then that was it.
Wow.
Been doing it
How
ever
old
since.
are you today?
30.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you've been in the program, or
Mhm.
been here for 9 years or so.
Yeah. This summer I think it'll be 10.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Mhm.
I think that's very interesting, because most people, most kids, most young adults, let's call it, grow up the typical, especially when you're super young, it's like firefighter, police officer,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. Then as you get older, you're like, okay, I gotta like grow up here. Like, what am I good at? Your thing was bartender.
Right.
What did your friends like? I mean, did you vocalize this? Did you tell your parents? You're like, Mom, guess what? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, was that a path that was like, your parents might have been like, oh yeah, that scene that plays, or
Right.
was that completely left field?
It was a little bit left field for them,
Okay.
but not like completely, because I started in the service industry when I was like 15. So I was like bussing tables
Okay.
and doing all that until I could serve, and then I served for a while. So like they already knew I was in the industry and I was kind of living that. But yeah, it was one of those things. I was like going to work and I was seeing the bartenders, and like they just seemed like these cool rock stars. Like everybody knew them, and like they're pouring drinks, everyone's having so much fun with them. And I was like, man, that looks so fun, and they're getting paid to do that. Like, hell yeah, I want that job.
Yeah.
And then you get it, and you realize it's just a glorified dishwashing position, but like, it's still a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you like making drinks. We've established that you're in it. You got involved almost 10 years ago. Here you are, really partnering up with Aaron. It sounds like doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like your sister outfit across the tracks here
Mhm.
is completely opposite in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
because you mentioned earlier that Valkyrie is all about the show of maybe making the drink,
Right.
whereas this is like, how can we get it out the fastest, still maintaining quality? Maybe how do we
Mhm.
get it? Is it easy? Like, what would you prefer? Like, as maybe a guy that floats between the two. Obviously both have its positives and negatives. What deep down, what do you like?
Man, I feel like it has like it ebbs and flows. Like I said, it's some nights I just want to come in here and just kind of like have a drink, get on the dance floor and lose myself and just kind of like check out from like the worries and the stress, And then other times it's like I just want to sit down at a table at Valkyrie, have great conversation with the people I'm with, have a cocktail or two, and just like enjoy that time together. I mean, you've been in here before. It's kind of hard to like have those connections and those conversations while you're here.
Sure.
But at the same time, if you just need that catharsis, like that release of just like letting it go, like this is definitely the place you want to be,
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it kind of just depends on the night.
Yeah. I find it interesting because pulling from opposites is I love that. And that's definitely something that you guys have embraced here. I often think about guys like Aaron, and I just had a conversation with Chip and Elliott's of the world, of these guys that really have poured into downtown and created not only a livelihood for themselves and building businesses, but for many others. Working so closely with Aaron, what are the things that maybe you've learned? Could be on the business side, could be on a personal side. Was there anything that sticks out that just like, man, that was something that I might have witnessed him doing, or like under the leadership of like an Aaron, what things in the past, I don't know, 10 years or so, what things stick out?
Oh man.
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, man.
I've learned so much from Aaron. Like he's basically my mentor. I've been working for him for, almost 10 years. So what not to credit him for, But I think the big thing that I have taken away and, kind of just like has been deep rooted in me working with him is just like, do the right thing. Just be a good person. I'm not going to lie and say I always, did the right thing in the past, especially, being a dumb kid.
Sure.
But, watching how he operates his businesses and the way he treats his employees, it's like, it's inspiring, it's like, yeah, that's how it should be done. And that's the guy I want to work for, because he doesn't treat people like crap and try to do shady practices or anything. Sure. It's like, just do the right thing, even if it's a hard thing to do.
Do you have an example of that right offhand?
I mean, I don't know. I remember when we were talking about, how we could better take care of the employees. And he was like, well, got to give them health care. Like nobody does that in this industry. It's really important that they stay healthy, and they have healthy practices. And like, how can we preach that and encourage that if we're not willing to kind of put our money where our mouth is and front the bill for some health care for them so that they can get the help that they need, whether, whatever that looks like. And yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big financial burden, I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool. One thing that comes to mind in an ever-changing world of restaurants and bars and the next venue and this place and that place. And I feel like, well, maybe let's just dive in here. When you started at Valkyrie at 21, you said, how far into Valkyrie, how old was Valkyrie at the time? To give me some context.
About 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I think
it's still
opened,
relatively new.
Yeah, I think they opened 2012. I came on 2014.
Okay. So something I'm obsessed with is being a business owner myself and seeing the landscape, and not only just of Tulsa, just downtown, ever changing.
Right.
Like there's things opening up. Barron's literally just right around the corner just opened up, and you have all these new spots. And I'm constantly thinking of, okay, you're not the new kid on the block anymore.
Right.
Maybe initially everybody was rushing to go check out the new spot. Let's go check out Valkyrie and the way they do XYZ cocktail. But now, years in, what was that, 2 years? So 12, 13 years, Valkyrie's age. How do you feel like you guys, and maybe let's just point this more towards Valkyrie. How are you guys staying current? What things are you guys doing to maintain literally staying in business and opening those doors every day?
Right. Yeah. Well, we try to always like continue to push the envelope. Like we try not to be stagnant. Our cocktail curation, how we're concepting our menus. I mean, it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I think we put up that huge wall. We went from 80 or so bottles to over 700. So we're just like constantly trying to figure out how we can make this more of the place that we would want to go to, because we try not to follow like the trends or what people tell us we should be or something like that. We try to come from a more organic place of like, well, we just want this bar to be like the ideal place that we want to walk into, and what does that look like? So I think as long as we keep doing that instead of just like trying to chase profits, people hopefully recognize that it's a cool thing that we're trying to do.
So for you guys, it's constant innovation or constant rethinking, retooling of how can I make this better for me, which then in turn would make it better for others maybe coming through the door.
Yeah. It's almost like that, treat others how you want to be treated in a kind of skewed way. But
Yeah. You said 700 bottles.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a bar behind us here, and there's definitely not 700, but
No.
it looks like you've added here as well. Out of curiosity, what's your most expensive bottle? I am floored that I'm not typically like I like a good mixed drink.
Mm-hmm.
I am far from a snob in the mixed drink, in the liqueur, in the distilled spirits world. Maybe you know right off the top of your head, maybe you don't, your most expensive bottle out of everything that's sitting over there.
I don't know if I could tell you what's on there right now. I can say the most expensive that I've poured over there over the many years was the Buffalo Trace Old Fashioned Copper. It was a 25-year bourbon they did on their old copper still, and I think it was like $750 for a pour, something like that.
Let's pause for a second. $750 for a pour. Are we talking a shot?
Yeah, 1 ounce. Yeah.
$750 for 1 ounce of liquid.
Yeah, that was probably that was like the craziest.
That's crazy, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, I'm way off on cocktails. That's wild.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild bottle that we just like
really, a Hail Mary, we should bring it in.
Well, we just got really lucky that they even offered it to us, that the opportunity to buy it, because it was just, they only made so many. Like I think it went into a barrel in like 93 or something.
Oh, geez.
And then they made very few of them. So then it was like, we're getting like 2 bottles in the state, I think. Like, do you guys want one? What? It's like, we can't say no.
Yeah.
Like, and we're like, even if it sits up there for 10 years, like, whatever. Like, it's fine. Like, this is such a cool thing. But because of that question, it actually went pretty quick. I think we sold the whole.
Really?
Yeah, I think we sold the whole bottle in like 6 months just from.
No way.
What's your most expensive? And then it's like,
I'll take it, bro.
This super cool thing, and people kept asking like, "How is it?" And we're like, "No clue, man. I cannot afford to taste it. Sorry." I think a couple of the staff, one of our good regulars, like bought a pour and was like, "You guys got to try it," and gave it to them. But fortunately, I was not working that day.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty funny, man. Now I'm like, was the distributor that came to you? Was it the distillery, Buffalo Trace? Did they come to you? And 2 bottles in the U.S. is
in Oklahoma.
Oh, in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was either like 2 or maybe it was 6. I can't remember
Okay.
like what. Maybe they sent a case or something. It was a 4-pack. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it came through our distributor, and that went straight to Aaron. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna buy it. I don't even know how much that costs. Many $1,000s.
So these big ballers are coming in, and they're like,
company card,
it's company card.
We'll
even better.
expense it. And I'm like, geez, dude, okay.
And you said you poured it. So were you like, I would be like super nervous, be like, don't spill, like don't even like a little dribble on the side, like you're dumping that jigger in there, and you're like maybe in the back just maybe licking it or something. I don't know. At that price point, I'm like, holy cheese, Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've made who knows how many drinks at this point, so it's kind of like, as long as I don't drop the bottle, fine. Yeah, I'll be all right.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
What's your favorite drink to make right now? And then maybe a secondary question: what's your favorite drink to drink versus to make?
Favorite drink to make? I don't know. They all kind of run together. I think one that's like interesting and has like a little bit of showmanship to it is like a Ramos Gin Fizz.
Okay,
like that's always fun to
I'm nodding like I'm gonna act like I know what that is. Let's get into it. What it was?
Yeah, so this is like a classic cocktail out of New Orleans.
Okay,
but it incorporates egg white and heavy cream, and you've got to shake it. Traditionally, you shake it for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to like really get it frothy and like all of that. But modern bartenders have figured out, if you do a little bit of soda water, you get kind of pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
So that one's fun. It always gets a great reaction from people, because like you get those stiff peaks from that almost like meringue that's on top.
Sure.
So it rises out of the glass, and then you just like set a straw on top and it holds it just like that.
And that's the presentation?
Yeah, and people are just like, what is this? So that one's fun. It takes some effort, but you know, it's worth it to get the reaction out of people and really make their day. My favorite drink, I mean, all of them. But I would say the one that's been most consistent throughout the years is probably the Negroni.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just hard to go wrong with that kind of like bittersweet, kind of fruity. Right. Yeah. Right.
That's super cool, man. I often think about going kind of back to like the finances of a business, of a bar business, and thinking through like, geez Louise, I feel like with Welltown, with us creating our own product, obviously there's a little bit more margins there, but as a bar, as a place that's trying to stay on top of whether it's trends or whether it's the new latest mixed whatever, I feel like I don't know. Is it hard to source exactly? I guess that's where I'm going with this, is like, is it hard to source the exact, I don't know, the core that you're looking for this mixed drink? I feel like there's probably some struggles from time to time of like sourcing the exact like ingredients that you would need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a constant battle, and it's not gotten better since COVID. You know, like that really threw stick in the spokes for everything. And we were like, okay, it's a hurdle, we'll get over it. And here we are a few years out of it, and we're like, really, I still can't get that? Like, what's going on? But yeah, distributors pick up and drop products based on how they're moving. So oftentimes we'll have, you know, our staples will just disappear out from under us, and we're like, hey, what's going on? Like, what? And they're like, well, you guys are kind of the only ones that pour it. And it's like, but we pour a lot of it, like, yeah, for us. But they're like, we're looking at the whole state, not just, you know, one bar. But yeah, I mean, there's also shortages just from the manufacturers, like chartreuse, for example. It's like pulling teeth to get any of that, just because they just don't make very much of it, and the entire world wants it right now. So makes it tough.
This is gonna be a dumb question. Isn't that a color? Chartreuse.
They named the color after the spirit.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm learning things. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with marketing. I'm fascinated with what people do to, whether it's drive traffic to a website, to their bar, or wherever. Are you guys, I start to get nerdy about this sort of stuff. Are you guys really diving into your demographics? Obviously, a Vitus versus a Valkyrie demo is going to be different. Do you guys spend any time studying who's your ideal demographic and how to maybe make a special drink for these guys or advertise something that would attract that person?
That's a great question for Drea. But yeah, not necessarily.
Okay.
We do take it into consideration, but it's not the driving factor of like really doing all of it. I would say, you know, we really want Vitus, while we have a young demographic here, we want it to feel really welcoming to everyone.
Sure.
So, you know, if you're in your 30s like I am, or 40s like Aaron is, or, you know, older, it's like, yeah, come and just hang out with us. It's like, it's for everybody.
Right.
And then same with Valkyrie, it's like we usually get a little bit older clientele, but like we also get people, it's their 21st birthday, and we're like, awesome, thank you for starting here. Let's show you the world, you know. Yeah. What do you know, and let's find out what you're into. Yeah. Kind of take it from there. So
we get asked this from time to time. I'm sure you guys, especially actually being Valkyrie being right next door, are you guys doing anything with cannabis? Is there any thoughts? Is there any desires to do anything there?
We're not.
Okay.
No.
Is it legal? It's probably not even legal.
Yeah, I don't know the legality of it. I would assume there's like a really iffy line between like that, like alcohol and THC and the same same thing.
I don't know, but
I don't know.
So you're not.
No.
When we first came in here, we're gonna pivot here. You guys are doing really cool things.
Thank you.
At Valkyrie, we were just over there shooting. We had a client, and we went over there, and that was her favorite spot. That was her favorite place to get a drink. And it's either Valkyrie, or now everyone's talking about Tina's and this, that, whatever. And it's really cool to see people that are not a flash in the pan. That guys are really doubling down on not only current projects, but also future projects. I heard, I'd love you to dive in a little bit more on not only Valkyrie, not only Vitus, you guys are up to something else.
Yeah, so we've got a
What are you
third
guys cooking
spot
up?
on
Yeah.
the way. It's called Maestro. It's going to be sugarcane and agave centric. We're going to be serving small and shareable plates. So first dive into doing food for us.
Okay.
I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so it's going to be bar first, but you know, a little bit of bites that you can enjoy with the friends for sure.
Where's it located?
So it's going to go in the Santa Fe Square.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. What was the name of it one more time?
Maestro.
Maestro. Do we have a ETA?
We're hoping by the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's super cool. So let's talk about the concept a little bit more.
Mhm.
You talk about sugarcane
Yeah.
being a vital element to
Yeah.
this. What does that mean? Is it a regional thing that you're trying to hit a regional? Did you mention the type of food that it's going to?
Right. So it's going to be kind of a mix between Central and South American as well as Caribbean.
Okay.
So just kind of mixture of that whole pot. And that kind of stems from the use of sugarcane and agave. So we're going to have various sugarcane spirits, whether that's from agricole, rum, cachaça, etc.
Mhm.
And then, you know, various agave as well. So tequila, mezcal, sotol, raicilla, etc., etc.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's super cool, man. So you guys are diving into the food scene now.
Yeah.
Or you said bar first, but then you'll have
Yeah.
food as well. Is that something that you talked about, those juices, those creative juices,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the mixing of alcohol? Do you still have that with, like, I want to get back there, I want to experiment with food as well?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. I'm not gonna.
Well, I don't know if you're like, that's sometimes it's a very fine line between creative this versus creative that.
Right.
I don't know if food was part of that or not.
Yeah, I think it definitely will soon become that
Okay.
for me. Much like when I started at Valkyrie, I had no idea what I was doing, bartending and creating cocktails. I'm not a chef by any means, but you know, I'm sure I'm going to spend many an hour back in that kitchen figuring it all out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's super cool, man. I'm excited for you guys. I see things like originally when we first started here, we're talking about how to stay current and all these things popping up, and the fact that you guys are able to grow and build not only what you have, but also future projects. That's always really exciting to hear. Tanner, I think sitting down with you here and talking and sitting in the middle of a dance, I'd be lying if I was to say I definitely have a dancing bone in my own personal body. So finding myself up here, kind of like what you said earlier, like just letting loose, like just welcoming even for the elders, at least would like that. It just the more older community. But it's exciting because I feel like whenever you're really focused on what we need to do really well.
Mhm.
Again, one of the other things I mentioned is the lighting here.
Right.
You guys, I think it's interesting to see that sometimes you walk in somewhere and it just there's vibes that are off
Right.
in some capacity. It just feels weird. There's a science to it. There's definitely a science to it. When you guys were building this Vitus here, were you guys obviously very intentional? Were you involved with that project?
Yeah.
Like what things were you guys really like top of mind, really focusing on?
Yeah, so we wanted to create almost like little pockets around the room where you could be in the middle of the dance floor, or you could be off to the side and, you know, kind of have those quiet-ish conversations and just create a bunch of like pockets in the room. That's why we've kind of enclosed the dance floor and put these curtains up. So even while you're out here, it doesn't feel like everyone in the room is just like staring at you
Right.
and watching you kind of, at least for me, dance awkwardly, you know? So yeah, we wanted that. And we also wanted a way to kind of get away from the party if you needed that kind of like breath of fresh air and just kind of like relax for a second. So we threw the patio out there as well to give you that.
Do you find that, I mean, we're basically in an alley back here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that sometimes people don't even know where you guys are at? Is that constantly? So how do you combat that? We're downtown Tulsa in an alleyway, which I personally love. I love that and the vibes of that. But how do you combat that? Just out of curiosity, what have you guys done?
I mean, we kind of just leaned into it.
Okay.
Before we opened, we were really vague with our marketing. We were just kind of like,
I remember,
there's something happening. If you know, kind of like you'll figure it out. And then we opened, and it was just kind of like word of mouth, just like, if you liked it, tell your friends, bring them back. Have fun.
Yeah,
keep the party going.
Yeah.
We wanted to be kind of a little bit secluded so that the people that are coming here were intentional about coming here. People that were looking for this kind of environment and not just like, walking down the street and they're like, hear loud music, and they walk in, they're like, why aren't you playing top 40s? And it's like, that's not what we do.
Shut up, dude.
Like, no, come on.
Right.
So there's kind of pros and cons to it. You get less foot traffic, but it's like the people that do come in want to be here. They were intentional about it.
Right. Switching gears to people.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the pleasure of getting to know Sydney Lee. I don't know if she started here or what. I know that she's very much a part of this place and being the DJ here. And she's, between her and obviously Heartwork, but he's changed his name, right? Is it still Heartwork? Maybe it is.
It was Darku J.
Darku. Then to Heartwork. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. So the people are really make a place, make
Absolutely.
or break a place. How do you guys, whether employees, whether DJs, how are you guys really putting, maybe you mentioned the healthcare situation. How are you attracting the right people?
We spend a lot of time interviewing people, and we've always hired for empathy. Like, is this an empathetic person? Do they like talking to people? Do they enjoy being around other people? All the other aspects, at least for bartenders, like, we can train. I can teach you how to pour a drink and, get the right amount of things in the shaker and shake it right and what have you. But it's way harder to teach somebody just how to connect with another human and be a human with them, So that's always been like our number one focus is, can I have a casual conversation with this person and it feel comfortable and relaxed?
Natural.
Do I feel relaxed talking to this person? So that's how we've always gone about hiring. I think it steered us wrong quite yet.
No. Empathy. You mentioned empathy. Why empathy?
I mean, it's hard to be a good host and to really treat people the right way if you can't be empathetic for like where they're coming from.
I can imagine as a empathetic bartender, you're having to deal with a lot of different, very difficult people, I'm sure, from time to time. I love diving into like these micro stories. What's some of the hardest people that you've had to deal with as a customer? Hopefully not like an employee, but like as a customer that just, maybe it turned around after they started to warm up a little bit, or maybe they were just destined just to be a thorn in your flesh.
Like me going into like other people's
just
bars,
just as a bartender, having to deal with somebody that is not the nicest, let's say.
I don't know. I've dealt with a lot of people over the last nearly decade.
Sure. Is one that sticks out right offhand?
I mean, gotten death threats.
Let's dive in there. Because
I've gotten all kinds of stuff, like
death threats. So you're not pouring the drink correctly, or it's not full enough, or like whatever the dumb case is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill you. Is really?
Yeah. Well, there was one guy who was in here. It was not too long after we opened. It was before I had security on like the weekdays. So I was just the bartender that night, and I'm like, hey man, I need to see your ID. And he's like, it's in my truck. And I'm like, okay, well, if you could go grab it. Like, he's like, no. And just like wouldn't back down, basically. He's like, no, I'm not going to get my ID. I was like, well, then you can't be here, man. Like, not my rule, but it is the rule. So sorry. And so he leaves, Comes back, and I'm like, great, you've got your ID. He's like, nope. And I'm like, really? We're really doing this right now? Come on, man. Like, help me out. Like, be a guy. Come on, dude. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going to put hands on you, but like, you have to leave if you don't get it. And he's like, I'm going to kill you and your entire family. And like, is like in my face, like bowing up. And I'm like, okay, man, like, that's really great, but I need you to go get that ID, please. Like,
this is where empathy starts to kick in. You're like, oh geez, here we go.
Yeah. I'm like, I mean, if you really want to stay, I can call the police and they can walk you out. But like, I don't think you want that. Like, I don't want to do that. It's going to ruin the vibe for everybody in here. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And eventually he left, but yeah, I mean, it's just, you get crap like that sometimes.
That's crazy. So we're going to go opposite end here. Have you ever served any like celebrities, anyone like super cool that was like, oh man, that person was super cool. I could see why people say XYZ about them, or let's hear some of those stories.
Oh man, one that comes to mind. I mean, Jim Gaffigan sat at my bar once. That was
nice.
That was fun. He was a fun guy. I got first cut that night, so ended up, he was with one of my other friends, so we all just like went around, went to Hodges and Saturn after that, and yeah, he's a funny dude. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Who else? What other celebrities? I know there have been a ton, but it all just runs together.
That's cool. So I think that being a bartender, you get to definitely see the highs and the lows of people. Either they just got fired or like this, and being that friend. Because a lot of times when people come in, they sit at that bar or at Valkyrie, wherever, they're just wanting someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to just have an ear and just maybe unload on somebody, because either they don't have somebody, or that's the high point or the low point of where they are.
For sure.
I find that very interesting, because bars seem to be one of the only places, and correct me if I'm wrong here, where you would have that random interaction with somebody, and they're able to just spill the beans about everything.
Oh yeah. And
you just hear some of the wildest stuff, I'm sure. I just find that very interesting, where you're at the end of the day, you're like, are we friends now? Because I feel like I've heard everything that you're telling me here. I just find that interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure sometimes, like any human, that person that comes in, you're behind the bar and you probably have maybe a million things to do, but maybe put inside some of those things just to help a customer just unload maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really important thing to do. And, you know, maybe they're going to tell you like the most insane story you've ever heard in your life, and then you never see them again.
Right.
You know, it happens all the time. But oftentimes, if you can be, you know, just a human being for them, whether, like you said, it's like the worst day or they're celebrating or whatever it is, you know, they'll usually come back. And that's how we've made like a ton of our really great regulars, is just, you know, being stalwart through the highs and lows, and you know, just being there for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I love what you guys are up to. I love it. The new concept sounds amazing as well. Any last things that you want to talk about? Any last things that you feel like, other things that you're cooking up, a new recipe, a new cocktail recipe that you're doing?
Let's see. Well, for Vitus, we are getting a completely new sound system soon.
Cool.
We kind of partied a little too hard on our last one, so we're running off of a rental set right now as we get our new Danley system built. It's going to be pretty nuts. So really excited to see how that changes the room. And then because of that new system, we kind of have to do a little bit of a remodel in here. So like, as you can see, some of these booths have already been taken out to make room. Probably do a little bit of a facelift on this DJ booth and what have you. So yeah, really excited to see like the Vitus 2.0 that's coming down the line in that regard. And then what else? Valkyrie, we just dropped a new menu like 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Okay,
so
cool.
If you haven't checked it out, please come by. A lot of really fun stuff on there. Yeah, and then just getting Maestro up and running.
That's exciting, man. That's really exciting. Well, thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah.
Dude, I love what you guys have always done.
Thank you.
And I think what it comes down to is consistency.
Yeah.
You guys are just very consistent on putting out great products. I know, I can't remember his name, but one of the bartenders over at Valkyrie, that you guys just have a great team that is just straight-laced and they just know their stuff. And I think that just really goes to show not only that bartender, that person, but also too is like the management and up from there. So it's a testament to what you guys are building. So
Thank you.
you guys are awesome.
High compliments. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner, for being on here. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Break.
All right.
Thanks, dude.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.